Sige.
In today's episode, I want to show you 8 different ways that I use hydrogen peroxide around my garden. Now, you may know that hydrogen peroxide is good for cleaning surfaces, for bleaching hair, for killing lice, and so on. But I think you will be surprised how many applications it has in the garden. It's one of those things that you can keep in your arsenal of gardening products, and then when you need it, you can go and grab it because I don't think many gardeners have a use for it every day, but it's good to have around just in case. So let's get started. So what actually is hydrogen peroxide? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's hydrogen and peroxide. Simple explanation is that it's an oxidizer, and it can help speed up chemical reactions. So anything that needs oxygen, hydrogen peroxide, can replace that oxygen and speed up the reaction. But how does this translate into the garden? The first way that I use hydrogen peroxide is a soil application. And there's a couple of ways that I do this. The first way is simply taking a spray bottle like this and filling it with hydrogen peroxide and spraying the soil around the base of the plant. This can be used as a general soil drenching whenever you feel the plant could use it. Maybe you've noticed the leaves getting a little bit wilted or droopy or not as perky as they once were. Hydrogen peroxide applied to the soil can really perk them up. It's also very useful if you're noticing fungal activity on the leaves. We'll talk more about that later. Another way to apply hydrogen peroxide to the soil is to do what's called making a hydrogen peroxide tea. This means putting some hydrogen peroxide into a watering can and topping up with water, then watering your plants as you normally would. For most plants, it's safe to use straight out of the tap. But for very sensitive plants, I'd recommend diluting it further. One of the amazing uses for hydrogen peroxide is in hydroponics. In hydroponics, you often have an air pump that is bubbling air into the water. Hydrogen peroxide can be added to this air stone or air pump, and this feeds the roots with oxygen. If you're using an air pump anyway, it's literally free oxygen. Roots love oxygen, especially in hydroponics, where sometimes the water can become stagnant and not have enough oxygen in it. Just add a few drops of hydrogen peroxide and your plants will love it. And talking of hydroponics, another use for hydrogen peroxide here is to disinfect your growing medium. If you're reusing a growing medium like vermiculite, perlite, or even soil, you can fill a bucket with water. Add some hydrogen peroxide, and then soak your growing medium in it for maybe 12 hours or even overnight. This kills off any nasties that might be hiding in there like fungus, bacteria, pests, weed seeds. And then you can reuse your growing medium knowing that it's clean and ready to go. Hydrogen peroxide can be used to disinfect your hydroponic system too. This is especially helpful if you're switching from one plant to another and you want to kill off any potential diseases or pests that might be lingering in your system. Again, you can make a hydrogen peroxide tea or just spray it around like I did here. If you've got mealy bugs or other pests like this that are hard to get to, you can spray hydrogen peroxide directly onto them. It will kill them dead. Also, if you notice spots on the leaves, you can spray individual leaves with hydrogen peroxide. For example, here I'm treating just this leaf here with hydrogen peroxide, and it's already looking much better since I sprayed it. I mentioned earlier that it's great for fungal problems on the leaves like powdery mildew or rust. Here we can see some powdery mildew here on this leaf. If we flip it over, you can see there's some rust here too. Now, if you look closely at the underside of the leaf, you can see there's tiny little mushroom structures here, which is the sign of a fungus. Hydrogen peroxide works by creating small amounts of oxygen, which the fungi hates. So it will dry them right out. But be careful when doing this, as it can also burn the leaves if you overdo it. A little goes a long way with hydrogen peroxide. Now, this all might sound pretty crazy, but I've got to tell you a story. When I was working on an organic farm in the UK years ago, we had a problem with powdery mildew. It was absolutely everywhere. So my boss went out and bought a massive industrial-sized bottle of hydrogen peroxide, and we sprayed it everywhere. It was such a sight to see him spraying this stuff all over the fields with a backpack sprayer. Anyway, it worked, and we saved the crop. Something I find really interesting about hydrogen peroxide is that it's basically the same as rain. Think about it. Rain is just water, right? Well, yes, but it's also slightly acidic, just like hydrogen peroxide. And it also contains small amounts of oxygen, which is why hydrogen peroxide is good to use on plants when it's been a long time since it's rained. The only difference between hydrogen peroxide and rain is that rain is free and you cut and control when it comes down. With hydrogen peroxide, you can make it slightly acidic by adding some citric acid, which is food grade and safe to use. I put a little bit in there. I'll put a link in the description box below for a video on how to make your own supercharged rain. But basically, you mix up some citric acid and then add it to the hydrogen peroxide. Then you can spray this mixture onto your plants as you would water it. This is excellent for acid-loving plants like camellias, hydrangeas, rhododendrons, azaleas, and so on. I made a whole video on how to make your own supercharged rain. I'll put a link in the description box below. I mentioned earlier that I use hydrogen peroxide in hydroponics, and one of the things that I grow in my vertical farm is pineapple. This pineapple here is loaded with fruit, and each one of these fruits is actually a multiple slip. What this means is that each fruit can produce its own plant. So what I do is I take one fruit, open it up, and remove the top and the bottom. Place it in a propagation mix, and then place it in an area that will receive bright indirect light. You can see here that each eye of the pineapple is producing a slip, and eventually they will all emerge and the pineapple crown will look like this. Each one of these is a potential new plant. But if you want to grow lots of pineapple, there is a trick to it, and that is using hydrogen peroxide. If you take your pineapple crown and place it in a propagation mix and just leave it there, you'll probably get maybe 2 or 3 slips emerging. But if you spray hydrogen peroxide onto the crown, you can get many more slips. Look here, we've got 12 emerging here. Here's another one with 10. So if you want lots of slips from your pineapple crown, use hydrogen peroxide. You may have noticed that my pineapples are grown vertically, and this is because I built a vertical farm and the hydrogen peroxide comes in handy here. That's because I spray the roots of my plants with hydrogen peroxide to make sure that they have enough oxygen. If you haven't seen my vertical farm yet, then go and check out this video here. If you found this video helpful, go and check out this playlist here for more videos just like this one. I appreciate you watching this video. Please click the like button below and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.
Home.